Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Wake Up and Live. This is Bobby Montego. Today is a church day. Just woke up and kind of not feeling it. Um, you know, um, what's up with these churches today, man? With everything for them is just these counterculture issues that don't seem to be going anywhere for the ordinary person. There's so many issues we have that we could actually use the church's feedback on, but instead they're caught up in all these issues of abortion and homosexuality and issues that don't seem to that don't seem to be taking us anywhere. It just don't seem to be the purpose for which a church is um, commissioned for. I'd much rather see the church stand behind the suffering man in certain issues. Um, ensure that governments do what they're supposed to because they have the money to take homeless people off the streets, or ensure that everyone is fed rather than being caught up in this thing about not being a socialist country and all the different things. I would so much more prefer to see the church involved in stuff like that without actually being political, and these churches today, man, they just they're just so caught up in issues that are of concern for either political party. You can't distinguish in some sense a church from a political party, and that really gets under my skin because you go to one church this week and you hear them talk about certain things, and you're like you're thinking to yourself, why waste time talking about that? Or why waste time trying to have people be like people from long ago, from a totally different culture in the Bible? Why not just preach the ethics and the moral teaching that makes sense to people? I'm not saying we're to pick and choose what we teach, but for God's sake, man, the church has to make sense to the common man. Um, since the church it doesn't seem to be in the business of going out and spreading the gospel, since it's in the business of telling people to come into its doors rather than going out on the byways and highways to meet people. Since it's doing that, well, when you bring people in, please find something worthwhile telling them rather than having them clap hands and getting into a euphoria from music and bombastic gospel, because that I mean, not gospel but bombastic preaching, because the gospel is supposed to be a good news thing. And don't invite people in to give them these horrible news about how terrible they are, because there's no good news in that. That's not a gospel, you know. And these issues, these counterculture issues that we're using to beat people over the head, the things that we, so-called church people don't like, the issues that we don't like that we use to beat people over the head. Please start telling them something that makes sense. Stop telling them what not to do and tell them what to do. You know, um, stop judging them, criticizing them, demonizing them, ripping them apart. Because I don't think if any of us call ourselves Christians, we're then supposed to be acting the way Christ would act. And the man Christ who who had someone as friend who we once who they actually called, I don't know if she was once or still was a prostitute, was Mary Magdalene, right? And the Christ we know had her as friend. He made several appearances to her instead of to his disciples first. So he must have had some affinity for her. So that person who has that kind of relationship with people is clearly not a judgmental person. A person who speaks to someone, the woman at the well, that most people would not speak to because it was a taboo. That woman, that man, Christ, would not be standing up there condemning people um, in ways in which a church do, but instead try to find ways to help them. You know, and I'm saying the church, with all its institutional power, should be doing more. And if you're calling people to come into your doors rather than going out to find people and to reach people, then you make sure you have something that's worthy for them to come in the church. Don't call them in to blast them and condemn them about the tattoos on their arm or about the way their skirts are too short or the whatever they do in their regular lives, help them in some sort of way. You know what I mean? Don't pass a judgment on them because they're feeling those judgments, they're noticing it, they're sensing it, and don't just pass these personal judgments we have on people under the guise that, well, the scripture says we're to do that and not compromise our beliefs and all of that nonsense, when sometimes it's really our personal judgment that we're passing on them, you know. Sorry I'm rambling on, but I guess I'm trying to psych myself out for going in. So I'm gonna get up and let me go brush my teeth and see if I can go fellowship with my fellow brothers and sisters. Uh, don't mind me, I grew up in the church, and it was always a central part of me, and still a central part of me. But there's some things that bothers me, and every week I get up and I feel a little less willing to go. So I'll get up and move. So see you later. Okay, thanks for joining me.